Hey guys, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was in Bleach universe, and Yoruichi falls in love with him, part 1. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic. I wish I was the Avatar 18. Link is in the description. Also subscribe if you enjoy the video. Let's start the story. Rain poured, as the echoes of steel and battle faded in the watery midday, a figure painted standing over another. They were a 16-year-old boy and a 13-year-old boy, the desecration of the Valley of the End, which was marked by the signs of battle there. All was silent except for the gentle pitter-patter of the rain. The first boy had black hair that was tied into a high ponytail, a few bangs covered his left eye barely keeping it seen. He had a slanted face making him older looking, there were faint whisker marks on face. Then he wore black cargo pants with black shinobi sandals, and had a long-sleeved shirt that was dark green. He stood at a height of 5.5. Also his eyes were a permanently active EMS, a gift from the beast within. Though it only allowed him to read people's movements. Taking the ninjato he held, he began sheathing it on his back with a sigh "AAT, last it's over," he thought with relief, as his breath was regained. His name was Naruto Uzumaki. He was a demon container of Kyuubi, though he disliked the fact that Yondaime, 4th generation, used him as a container. In his earlier years he had discovered a henge seal on him that made his hair look bright and blonde, not to mention spiky. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Kami no Shinobi, god of shinobi, had placed it on him. He had originally planned on using it to have Naruto be praised as a hero to the people, and sadly it didn't work. As a result he grew up with very little social contact, but when Sarutobi had said that he wanted it done so Naruto could be viewed as a hero, Naruto's main thoughts at that time was that Sandaime was an idiot for such thinking. It was almost as if it was mocking the Fourth's appearance, as if he was daring them to attack Naruto. Attacks happened very rarely on Naruto, but they were very few. And far between. Back to the present, a retrieval team was sent to retrieve the last Uchiha. The village spoiled Sasuke silly to the point that they would worship him like the ground he walked on. Not to mention it made him egotistical, a superiority complex, as well as looking down on anyone who was not on his self-proclaimed level. Sasuke had raven black hair that was shaped like a duck's ass, and had white khaki shorts with a blue shirt. Naruto created a Kage Bunshin, shadow clone, to carry the unconscious Uchiha, his memories flickering to the beginning of the battle. Flashback, half an hour ago. Naruto stared at the Uchiha standing atop the statue of Uchiha Madara. It was silent for a few moments, as the arrogant brat spoke up. "So then dope, he sneered, you and me, fighting each other like Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara." He chuckled. Interesting to see that history repeats itself. You should consider yourself lucky to even have received those Sharingan eyes. I will achieve the full power of those eyes, and I will take those precious eyes from you. Naruto scoffed at those words, except there's one major difference between you and Madara. He got a confused look. Madara was an exceedingly calm individual. He smirked lightly, and you're far from that point, given that you snap at Itachi's name. Sasuke scowled at Naruto with anger. So then, here to rescue me for that pink-haired slut. He sneered the next second, trying to prey on Naruto's hate for their teammate. Naruto snorted. Far from it, Uchiha, he stated. I'm just here to do what Tsunade-san told me to. He spread his feet a bit. Two choices in exiting this valley, knocked out or peacefully. Sasuke snorted. Sorry dope, but with the promise of power for Orochimaru-sama, I can kill my brother. Naruto shook his head in annoyance. Such a narrow-minded view, going to the weakest of the Sannin for power. He cocked a black eyebrow. You really have no understanding of the true meaning of strength, do you? Sasuke snarled. Shut up dope. His anger was getting the better of him. I'll kill you here now and achieve true power. He cackled manically, getting a sigh from Naruto. He did a few hand sealskitten. Gakyaku no Jutsu. He spewed a massive fireball at Naruto, who used a blur of speed to get out of the way. He muttered Futon. Haze no Yaba. Naruto made a slashing motion that sent an invisible blade of wind at the Uchiha. He dodged as he jumped off the Madara statue. The blade sliced clean through the statue's hair. Naruto took off into a melee battle in midair, aiming a punch at Sasuke. He titled his head, avoiding a counter. Naruto grabbed him by the collar and drop-kicked Sasuke, sending him careening into the ground, which left a crater indent. Naruto landed on his feet, then the sound of chirping birds reached his ears as Sasuke yelled Chidori. Thousand birds. Sasuke had his hand covered in lightning as he charged at Naruto, who stood there with a bored look. Dope. The lightning attack was mere inches from his heart when Naruto grabbed his wrist. He sent out a chakra burst that stopped the chirping bird's attack. Kakashi-sensei never really taught you proper use of assassination techniques, did he? Naruto slammed his knee upwards on Sasuke's elbow. He cried out in pain, hearing a crack. Naruto didn't stop as he roundhouse kicked Sasuke in the head and sent him skidding across the water top. Looking up from his broken arm, he felt his nose break with a sickening crack as he was sent skyrocketing at the valley wall courtesy of Naruto's foot. Naruto sighed to himself as he walked atop the water. This is the difference in our strengths. Uchiha-san, he chuckled softly, hearing rubble being moved. Sasuke came out of tit, but with a purple aura engulfing his being, so then, still won't stay down, eh? Sasuke said under his breath, power, this wonderful power. The crazed Uchiha yelled to the heavens, now, time to die. Sasuke's form changed completely. He had dark skin and a shuriken marking that was black on his nose bridge and had bat-like wings caged Chidori. Dark thousand birds. Naruto sighed to himself as he unsheathed the ninjato on his back. Just wonderful for the report, he muttered, holding the sword at his side. Dope. I finally killed you. He threw his head back in laughter at last. No need for that weak and useless village called Konoha. No more waiting around those weak fangirls to kill my older brother, Itachi Uchiha. Sasuke stopped. He noticed something odd. Then, Naruto with his Chidori-covered hand disappeared with a puff of smoke. The slicing of metal was heard. Naruto appeared behind Sasuke with his ninjato nearly sheathed. Did you really think that I would leave myself wide open? He turned slightly. Such arrogance, he smirked as he took a tape recorder out of his pouch. Thank you for the confession, Uchiha. He sheathed the ninjato completely. Blood spewed from lines on the wings. They collapsed into the water. As fresh blood stained the water, Sasuke gave a pained yell. As the curse seal receded into the junction on his neck, he swiveled, trying to attack Naruto in a last gamble attempt to kill him. Naruto quickly slashed Sasuke at the tendons on his muscles. As he kicked Sasuke back onto dry land, he landed with a harsh thud. As it began to rain, Naruto sighed to himself as he appeared in a blur of speed. He looked up at the sky. At last it's over, he panted, trying to regain his breath. Then flashback. Naruto jumped up to the cliff's edge to see Kakashi Haddock. He was a jounin with a high 8 slanted, then he had a mask covering the rest of his face. Naruto nodded with a mental sigh. He remembered how he met Kakashi. Flashback, Genin team placement day. Naruto was not a bit annoyed, but very annoyed, as he had team placements today, and he got stuck with a fangirl and a brooder Uchiha who is treated like Kami-san. He muttered a curse under his breath before deciding to ignore Pinky's useless talking to the Uchiha. He raised an eyebrow. What made her talk so goddamn loud? Naruto shook his head as he sat at a desk in the classroom, wisely deciding to take out a book and read. It was entitled Henry the V. Naruto began to read. It caught the attention of a certain fangirl. Baka, don't try to impress me with the fact you can read books, she sneered. Yeah, dope, you should give up. Unbeknown to them, a certain silver-haired jounin was listening. This moment would make Naruto his favorite student. You say something? The former blonde asked. Kakashi's eyes smile outside the doors. Sniff, I'm so proud of my future student. He yelled mentally, crying and I'm tears from his single visible eye. Sakura screeched at Baka. Stop acting cool. Kakashi stepped into the classroom only to feel his body rush, then a pain happened in his left cheek as he slammed up against the wall. Nice aim, I'm sure shinobi everywhere would be proud of you attacking our sensei, Naruto stated dryly as he turned the page in his book. You should know a kawarmi replacement when you see one. Kakashi rubbed where he was punched and got up. Sakura was looking confused, as was Sasuke. Naruto just smiled behind his book as he leaned on the doorway. First of I am saddened by all of you, he got looks. Naruto merely raised an eyebrow. Your stupidity never ceases to amaze me. He looked at Sakura, who just blinked dumbly. Not understanding his meaning. Your being full of yourself disgusts me. He got a glare from the last Uchiha, and I pity him. He jabbed a thumb at Naruto, who just shrugged. Meet me on the roof, he said simply before disappearing in a shunshin. Naruto sighed to himself before going to the roof with his teammates following him. Then flashback. Naruto shook his head. How are you, Kakashi-sensei? He asked, getting a nod from Jounin. I'm good. Did you waste much energy? Naruto merely smirked. What do you think? He asked rhetorically. Kakashi chuckled. Naruto was an impressive student by his standards. Alright, let's get going. I had to miss out on an S-rank mission for this. Naruto just smiled as he played the tape. Kakashi frowned at the end of it. When Naruto had explained he had got the Uchiha to confess unknowingly to Naruto, not bad. We can keep you safe from the council with this proof. Naruto nodded in agreement as they began to make their way from treetop to treetop. So how are the others? Were medic nin sent out? Kakashi nodded as he tilted his head to avoid a branch hitting him. Yep, Niji got a hole just above his left lung. Chaoji has soldier pill sickness. Lee got a few scratches, but other than that he's fine. He shrugged. Oh. And Kiba got a stab near his stomach along with a few gashes and wounds. He remembered. Naruto nodded. You know, he smirked, getting Kakashi's attention. It's going to be a field day for the shinobi counselors. Kakashi nodded in full agreement with that statement. Passing by a tree, the two never noticed a seal marker glowing red for a moment, which had the kanji for contaminated. It died down to reveal it was blue and dissipated into the wood of the tree. Unknown location. An old man was finishing his paperwork at his desk when under it, a slot opened up and revealed what appeared to be a small screen. It had the same kanji for contamination before going to a blue color and dissipating. So it finally cleared, he muttered. I better let him know, he started to himself before leaving the room in an unknown technique. But Naruto and Kakashi stopped outside the gates. Let's just get the Uchiha to the hospital. If his fangirls catch up, he trailed off ominously. Kakashi nodded in agreement. It'd be chaos. He chuckled, as did Naruto. He took Uchiha and Sunshine to the hospital. Naruto smiled lightly. Kakashi had been a mentor of sorts to him. Originally he had been ordered by the civilian council to train the Uchiha. Naruto was a bit angry at that part, but did respect Kakashi whenever he sent a Kage Bunshin to help in his training. Kakashi also sent Asuma Sarutobi his way because he apparently had a very strong affinity for wind. Asuma is the best and one of the only wind users in the land of fire, so Kakashi thought it would be best to learn from him. With Asuma, Naruto learned how to use trench knives, though Naruto's were a bit longer than his sensei's knives. Asuma taught him what little he knew about swords. Naruto groaned mentally and began to mentally count down. Where's Sasuke-kun? Sakura, his pink-haired teammate, asked frantically. At the hospital, Kakashi-sensei took him there to be treated. He said smoothly, getting relieved from Sakura. See you. I'm gonna check on Sasuke-kun. She said the next second before leaving. Naruto had a massive sweat drop on the back of his head. Why that girl made it to Genin, he had no idea. Naruto shook his head. He had to prepare for the council. He had no doubt that they would be on this mission like a pack of wolves on a deer. Hospital. Naruto ignored the looks he was getting from the hospital staff. Turning a corner, he found Tsunade Senju. Hey Tsunade-san. Tsunade heard the voice and turned with a smile on her face. Hey, he twitched. Glad you got back, the Uchiha, she scowled. A slow smirk developed seconds later. Kakashi-san told me as to how you got a recorded confession. The woman had blonde hair with a green guy. Then she had two pigtails going down her back and last had a vest that showed off her cleavage slightly. Naruto waved off the praise. He likes to brag, to be honest. The two chuckled and then a serious atmosphere set in. You think the civilian council knows by now? Tsunade nodded stiffly. Most likely, that tape will be sufficient proof and with a few logical counterpoints. We can keep them from me being kicked out of Konoha. He had a smug smirk on his face, as did Tsunade. Okage-sama, the two looked to see an owl-masked Anbu. The council calls you. Tsunade gave a look. Anbu, state your codename. The Anbu was confused, but complied. Owl, Hokage-sama. Tsunade hamed. Now tell me, why a shinobi? She emphasized shinobi takes orders from a mere civilian. Owl flinched at her iron tone. Hokage-sama, I only did. You are under my orders, Owl, she said harshly. Tell the counselors I have work to do with patients. Their lives matter more than a mere squabble. Owl looked down in shame slightly before nodding. Hi, apologies Hokage-sama. Naruto watched the Anbu disappear in a swirl of leaves. Are they always so? He started at Tsunade. Eccentric. The blonde female finished. Hi, you should know what it is like when they report to you. Naruto chuckled and nodded. Excuse me, I have to go see Shikamaru. I heard he only got a broken finger. Tsunade nodded as Naruto left, walking down the hall. She had work to do. But Naruto approached Shikamaru. Nara, he had a Chunin vest and pineapple-like haircut. Hey Shika. Shikamaru nearly jumped. Damn it Naruto, you troublesome. He tired finding the right word. Shinobi, you nearly gave me a heart attack. Naruto chuckled. Glad to see you're alright. You're one lucky team to get away with a broken finger, he pointed out. Shikamaru cocked his head to the side. Thankfully Naruto looked to see Temari. Temari-san. I assume that your other two siblings are here. Temari nodded with a smirk. Sure are, Gaara is finishing things up with your Hokage. Naruto nodded at that. I already heard about the others' conditions. You should be glad that everyone survived. Shikamaru nodded at that. Still though, we could have taken less injuries. Naruto sighed. Some things are unavoidable in life, he said wisely. Even injuries. He got a familiar sensation going up his spine. Cover your ears people, he put in earplugs, ignoring the two's looks. Naruto no baka. A voice screeched, making Shikamaru wince, as did Temari. Naruto sweat dropped seeing an Anbu hit the ground, rolling as he clutched his ears in pain. Who knew that her lungs could be used as a weapon? The Anbu quickly got back in the shadows before anyone else noticed. Naruto snorted mentally at that thought as Sakura stormed up to him. He took out the earplugs as Temari glared at Naruto for not warning her. Shikamaru muttered. Troublesome, he nodded to Temari, who immediately understood. She knew that Sakura had an insane worship for Sasuke. She left to get Tsunade. Sakura glared childishly at Naruto, who looked border impassive. Hard to tell, it was borderlining on either _LEAV me alone or _I''M blank, and you can't do anything about it. Naruto baka. Why did you hurt Sasuke-kun? She yelled at him. Naruto twitched slightly. He was a traitor that was willing to go to the enemy and willing to sell this village's secrets, all for a mere revenge against an S-ranked criminal, his duty before his needs. Sakura huffed, "Shut up, loser. Sasuke-kun can defeat even you." Naruto wanted to slap his forehead at the girl's lack of intelligence, or was it logic? "Then how is it that he's in a hospital bed and not me?" he asked coolly. Tsunade came up to hear the last part from the girl she was annoyed with. "Shut up, you monster." Naruto flinched but refused to let his emotions get the best of him. "You're just some dead last loser that no one cares about. You got lucky." "Uruno Sakura," Tsunade said sternly. Naruto smirked mentally as she continued, "That is unbefitting of a kunoichi such as you. I expected more maturity from you." Sakura held her nose in the air arrogantly. "Shut up, bitch." Naruto slapped his forehead. Shikamaru wisely edged away, as did Temari, who was behind Tsunade. The three were smart, not suicidal, as they knew about Tsunade's legendary strength. "You're going to train me so I can catch the heart of my Sasuke-kun." Tsunade stared at Sakura with a WTF expression, then killing intent leaked out from her, making the poor pink-haired girl shiver. "You dare demand that me, a Sannin, train an arrogant fangirl like you?" she roared, making her flinch. "Girl, you have 3 seconds to get out of here, or I will personally make you my training dummy and demote you to an academy student," she said in a low and dangerous voice. Naruto sighed as his EMS slowly spun around due to his irritation from being in that banshee's presence. But Sakura protested but was cut off by Tsunade. Now. If it was possible, she left faster than the Hiraishin no jutsu of the Yondaime. Tsunade sighed as the killing intent lifted. "Now, I thank Shikamaru-kun for telling Temari-chan to get me." She smiled appreciatively. "Not a problem, Hokage-sama," Shikamaru said lazily. "Are you going to be doing surgery on Chaoji now?" he asked out of concern for his friend. "I am Tsunade," and Shikamaru began. She got his attention. "A good job for an S-class mission." Naruto went a little wide-eyed there, as did Shikamaru. She left the next second in a shunshin. Naruto gave a low whistle. "Damn, looks like things are getting interesting." Shikamaru nodded in agreement with that statement. "Hey Naruto-san," he got his attention. "I want to know something. Why did you act like a hyperactive person during academy days and come out as a well-controlled person a day before graduation?" he asked bluntly, in reference to the time he came back. Naruto blinked at that as he looked up in remembrance. "Yes, I left on a 9-year training trip," he grimaced, remembering the assassination attempts when he was younger. He decided to leave at the age of 6 and leave behind a blood clone. He had met Kyuubi and decided to train under him. Flashback, 15 years old. Naruto looked over Konoha with a duffel bag strapped to him. He had his black hair that was at his shoulders during this time. He wore camouflage pants and a black tank top. "Konoha, I really don't know how I feel to be back." "Damn you, Naruto." Naruto blinked. "Must be my blood clone." His thoughts stopped seeing a pull a prank as Chunin chased him back. "KYUUBI," he thought dangerously. "How are you doing?" he asked, trying not to sound nervous. "Can you explain to me as to why my blood clone is pulling a prank?" he thought dangerously. Kyuubi gulped quietly. "I blame you for this." "Hey!" Kyuubi shouted indignantly. "Why is it when something goes wrong, you blame me?" "FOXES are known to be playful pranksters." Naruto was accused mentally. "Why, oh, you messed with the blood clone, didn't you?" Kyuubi mumbled. "Maybe an alteration in personality." Naruto sighed in annoyance. "DAMNIT despite the fact you trained me," he grumbled about Fox's messing with his abilities before deciding to go dispel the blood clone a few hours from now. Then flashback. Naruto shook his head. "Let's just say I had an epiphany," he said the ending lamely, making Shikamaru sweat, and dropped at the explanation. "Wow, that was an excellent excuse," Kyuubi said sarcastically to Naruto. "I'm sure you'll be wonderful in that department." Naruto mentally rolled his eyes at Kyuubi. "WATCH it," he said defensively. "I'm gonna go get some rest, besides visitor hours are over with now." Shikamaru nodded in understanding as Naruto left in a shunshin. Next morning. Naruto heard knocking on his door to see an Anbu with a cat mask. "Yes?" he asked tiredly. Pat responded to the council call. "Tsunade-sama was waiting for you." There was a hint of irritation on the council's part. Naruto nodded with a small smile. "Thank you, tell her I'll be along in a minute or two." The cat Anbu nodded before leaving in a shunshin. Naruto grumbled for a moment as he slipped on a long-sleeved black shirt and cargo pants that were gray and last were shinobi sandals. He slipped a kunai into the sleeves just in case. He left in a shunshin a few moments later, reappearing in the council chambers. "Yo," he said in greeting. "Swan grown Gaki, you've been with Kakashi too long." Naruto chuckled as he tied his black hair into a high ponytail. "Hey, you can never dismiss the classics." Naruto and Tsunade snapped to attention as the civilian council seemed to have an air of arrogance. The shinobises maintained wariness and could have possibly been calculating what was going to happen in these next few moments. Naruto Uzumaki, do you know why you are here? The Warhawk asked. Naruto looked impassively at him. I do not, but if there is a situation and trouble here, I am sure we can work out this problem. Immediately a pink-haired lady shouted, shut up demon. You will respect this council. She said instantly, she hated the boy for what he was. Naruto looked at her. Haruno. He got a nod. If you would state my reason being here, I am sure that most of us want to get back to our daily activities now. The Shinobi Council was impressed, though they did not show it, as Genin handled the council easily. This was going to be fun. You are charged for the assault of Uchiha-sama. Another fat merchant yelled with agreements from the civilians. Naruto looked at Hiashi Hyuga. Excuse me, but if this is a shinobi matter, why are civilians here for a mere shinobi problem? Hiashi decided to play along. It seems that they think you did it out of hatred for a teammate, he stated smoothly. Though, I question if they are experts. His lips twitched, trying to keep back a smirk. Shut up, Hyuga. The pink-haired lady yelled, making everyone wince. That brat should be executed for what he has done. Naruto snorted at Haruno. He got everyone's attention. Tell me, in what area do you consider yourself an expert in shinobi matters? Haruno flapped her lips as Naruto smirked. None. He shook his head in mock shame, and I thought they had infinite wisdom. Inochi snorted quietly in amusement. Naruto-san, we would like to hear your story of what happened. Naruto nodded as he explained his fight with Sasuke. He's lying. No one can beat Uchiha-sama. Naruto gave a bored look at the counselor. Excuse me, Shibi-san. He got Aburum's attention. If I may ask, if I got a confession of the Uchiha trying to leave Konoha intentionally, what would be my standpoint? Shibi hummed for a moment. Logically, he would be detained and tortured for abandonment of a hidden village and indirect murder of several clan heads, he said in his monotone. What? Was the outcry by many civilians. Amura pushed up his glasses. Boy, if you have proof, why don't you present it? He sneered, as if he was challenging Naruto. The black-haired boy shrugged as he took a tape recorder out and played the exact moment when Naruto's Kage Bunshin was hit by the Chidori. It's a trick. The demon did it so he could frame Uchiha-sama. No, Hiashi stated. That was the Uchiha's voice. Tsum-san, what do you think? He directed the last part at the Inuzuka clan matriarch. Tsum snorted in response. It's the Gaki's voice, no doubt. I've heard it more than enough time in these village walls to know that that is the brat's voice. Taoza, the father of Chaoji, nodded. I agree, the Uchiha must be punished. What? But the demon. Shut up. Tsunade yelled, she had enough of this. Now, if I want to hear you idiot speak, do so with my permission. This is strictly a shinobi matter, she said with killing intent, making several civilians shudder. We decide the punishment, you buzzards flap your gums when we want you to, she smirked evilly at their angered faces. Hiashi spoke up, and I propose mental evaluations and sealing of his Sharingan and Chidori technique. He would have to go through the mental scans with Inochi-san's help, then he has D-rank solo missions for 6 months and C-ranked missions with a 2-cell Jounin. Not possible. Kaharu stated angrily, we need the bloodline to make Konoha strong. Swan snorted. Then tell me why he was defeated by Naruto here, she gestured to him. He is a more willing and competent shinobi than the Uchiha. She finished smugly. Anzo stood, Naruto cut him off from speaking. If this is the broken record of the Interu program, shut your mouth please, he said annoyed. Anzo shut his mouth but glared at Naruto, who just smirked in return. Tsunade stood. This meeting is done with and over, she snapped her fingers, getting two to appear place guards at Sasuke Uchiha's room. Given his recorded proclamation, he is now being watched by the Anbu. If he escapes, stop him, she said in a commanding tone. The two Anbu nodded before leaving in a shunshin. Naruto smiled. Now, I'm going back to my apartment to sleep, he got a chuckle from Chaoza and Inochi. Swan-san, I'll be around. Tsunade nodded as he left in a shunshin of wind. She too left, deciding to ignore the old idiots called civilian counselors. Hokage's office. As Tsunade approached, Shizune stopped her. Tsunade-sama, there's someone waiting for you in there. Swan gave a look. Did he say who it was? Shizune thought for a moment and shook her head. No, he did not, she started. But he said he was here for his legacy, she said in confusion. Swan cocked a brow before going in. The man who was looking out the window turned. He had black hair that was held by a, and then he had a light green scarf with a black kimono with tabi socks and sandals. After that he wore a white haori with diamonds at the edges. It was sleeveless as well. Then he stood at a height of 5'11". And had a katana at his waist held by an obi. Then he had dark blue eyes as well. His posture indicated he was a noble. He seemed to be impassive at the moment and held an aristic manner. Swan shuddered inwardly at his cold look. It reminded her of Orochimaru when he began his distant ways. "Can I help you?" she asked in a formal, businesslike tone. The man spoke greetings Tsunade-sama in monotone. As the woman sat behind her desk, Tsunade looked the man in the eye. "My assistant informed me that you were looking for your legacy. Can you clarify what you meant?" Swand asked. The man gave a curt nod. "Yes, I am Byakuya Kichiki. I am looking for my son. His first name is Naruto." Swand was numb with shock. As those words were spoken. "Excuse me," she took a deep breath, "but you essentially said you are Naruto's father." Byakuya carefully arched his brow. Did his son not know his own last name? "Minato did not tell him?" he asked. Tsunade sighed after she took a look at a passage in Sarutobi's journal she had taken out moments ago. It took Jiraiya to unlock it due to a complicated seal. Sarutobi-sensei, after he was reinstated, thought that he could protect Naruto by keeping his parentage secret, she explained sadly after a minute of scanning a few passages. She did not notice the far-off look on Byakuya's face, as Tsunade was deep in thought of how her sensei could keep knowledge of parents from a child. Flashback, 16 years ago. Byakuya had arrived in the Elemental Nations, mere hours after an attempted assassination on his own flesh and blood. There was one man that he could trust, one that would uphold in protecting his son. "Are you sure of this?" Byakuya nodded, as he softly handed the warmly wrapped bundle. "I am," he replied quietly. The man sighed, but nodded. "I'll take care of him. When will you return?" he asked softly. Byakuya thought for a moment while weighing the pros and cons. 15 years from now, he remembered, that would be the approximate amount of time needed to find the assassins who had gone into hiding. Some assassins could be quite sneaky. The other man nodded as he was handed a scroll by Byakuya. Wordlessly he left leaving a blonde, spiky-haired man to look out the window. During the entire meeting, neither noticed the crimson-red glow in the sky during their conversation. Then flashback. Byakuya sighed mentally as Tsunade snapped the journal shut. "Well, I'm glad you're here at least," she started. "You said you'd return at the age of 15, what took an extra year?" she asked, trying to comprehend the fact that a Shinigami was in front of her due to what she read in the journal. Byakuya noted the look in her eye as he explained his cold tone. "The Kyuubi's Reishi clouded our sensors in the Soul Society. It was only a few hours after I dropped off Naruto that it happened." Tsunade was grateful for the silencing seal she installed. "I had planned on picking him up a year ago." He let out a small sigh. "It's only now that the Reishi cleared up due to the markers." Tsunade nodded slowly as she took in the information. Byakuya asked, "How has his life been here?" "Okay, looks like things are going to be downhill at this rate." "With Naruto, apartment area." Naruto stared at the ceiling with a sigh. He pushed himself off the bed as he picked up a book, deciding to go out for a while and get some fresh air. Hokage's office. Byakuya showed no emotion to how his son was treated, but his eyebrow did twitch once, whether from annoyance or anger. Tsunade did not want to know. He heaved a sigh. "I see," he said simply as he began to take a look out the window. He was angry at the fact that the man he trusted made his son's life hell by sealing Kyuubi into him. Tsunade expected this for the most part, given Sarutobi had his secrets. She disliked the fact that he hid who his parents were. "I assume you'll be taking him back." It was a prediction, not a question. Byakuya nodded wordlessly. He glanced in the slightest at Tsunade. "I would however like to know who tried ruining his life." He felt a mental twitch, seeing a murderous grin form on the Hokage's face. "I'd be more than happy to," she said, as the grin turned into a smirk. Byakuya merely nodded at that. He left the room the next second. With Naruto. Naruto lay in a tree branch reading a book. He frowned for a moment as a few thoughts came to mind. He felt as if someone was either watching him or as if there was something going on. Shaking his head to rid himself of paranoid thoughts, then movement rustled in the leaves. He felt the wind blow gently against his hair, then he disappeared in a blur. *ROO teen in Naruto Muse *SOMETHING*S definitely up, he thought, avoiding detection. Stealth was the best option at this point and certainly did not want unnecessary attention. Naruto heard metal whistling and he dodged an attack by a root nin. Quickly dispatching the enemy, he viciously kicked the operative in the chest with his shin and he was sent spiraling into a tree. A crack was heard as he was knocked out. Naruto grimaced. He decided to leave the scene in a shunshin the next second. Appearing in a meadow, he heard an inhumane roar, then a shadow fell over him as he narrowly dodged what appeared to be a large bear-like thing that was 20 feet tall and had a swaying tail with a menacing-looking mask on its face. Naruto narrowed his eyes slightly. "The hell is that? Get off the way." Kyuubi yelled in his mind. "That's a hollow." Naruto decided not to question, but to do, as he jumped back avoiding an attack, then a red glow was in its mouth as it aimed at Naruto. But Byakuya was searching for his son's faint signature when he saw a Zero go off in the distance. He immediately left in it to the adjacent area. But Naruto Naruto panted as he had his back to a tree, hiding from the hollow that had attacked him. That red blast attack skinned his left arm. He just barely got away and had blood trailing down his appendage. He winced at the dull throb. Come out, time for feeding." The hollow laughed as it searched for Naruto. Naruto lowered his breathing to silent levels, then something happened. Smash. The tree was reduced to bits as Naruto dodged the swinging of its tails. "Time for some fun." A maniacal laughter echoed from the hollow. Naruto skid for a few moments. What was this thing? The Kudo 61. Rikujikoro. Naruto heard the words as 6 beams of light seemingly slammed into its midsection and the hollow thrashed violently. "Come out warm. I'll kill you, you damned Shinigami." Naruto cocked a brow back Shinigami. He thought Kyuubi was unusually silent at this point. Byakuya a distance away, he glanced in the slightest seeing Naruto, his eyes widened slightly before recompassing. He had to finish this quickly. The hollow sniffed the air as if it was matching a scent and cackled, "Ah, so familial relations." It questioned in an echoing tone. Naruto stood and wrapped medical bandages around his left arm to stem the blood flow. He could see the man clearly. Deciding not to interfere, he jumped back into a tree. Byakuya immediately understood. It was plain and simple. "Finish this quickly." Byakuya murmured, pointing at the hollow Hado 4. Byakuya a bolt of white lightning shot at the hollow, who just barely in time shifted its head as the attack skinned its mask, leaving a crack. Naruto watched the battle. He remembered Familial relations. He thought Kyuubi. Kyuubi spoke up. "Kid, looks like I found something interesting in the DNA section of your mindscape." Naruto cocked a brow mentally as if he was gesturing to the Great Fox to go on. "I was blocked off from accessing this portion since you were born, right?" Kyuubi asked. Naruto mentally nodded slowly as Kyuubi continued his explanation. "Up until now, I've been disintegrating what appeared to be a mental seal there, and it turns out you have the genetic structure of a Shinigami." Naruto just felt his mind shut down for a moment. He shook his head, deciding to wait till this fight finished. He wanted a few answers if this Shinigami was his father. The hollow was losing badly as it had already had half its mask cracked and the left limb cut off. "Damn you. Damn you." Byakuya remained calm as he withdrew. "It's over, hollow," he said in a cold tone. The hollow was desperate as it frantically searched for a way out of the situation. A sickening thought came to mind. "I may not be able to defeat them." He pounced towards Naruto, who snapped out of his thoughts. "But I can kill this brat." Byakuya's eyes widened as he shunned as fast as he could. Naruto dodged the attack, but the tails were going to demolish him when Gyre, scatter, Senbon-Sakura, 1,000 cherry blossoms. Byakuya appeared in front of Naruto in midair as the blade dissolved into sakura petals. Then he swung the hilt of his as the blade sliced into the hollow deeply, and it screamed in pain as it cut into its white mask and disappeared into nothing. Naruto was shocked as he landed further up the tree branch. He shook his head to rid himself of it. The next second Byakuya stepped onto the branch and Naruto was silent for a moment as if it felt like hours. "Who are you?" he asked calmly. He wanted to know. Byakuya saw the look in his son's eye. He sighed mentally. "We need to talk," he said simply before reappearing on the forest floor. Naruto nodded curtly before jumping down. Landing, he gave a look that said, "Explain yourself." Naruto. Byakuya started getting a slightly widened look from said boy. "I am your father, Byakuya Kichiki," he said quietly. He knew from the look in his son's eye that he could not lie after what the hollow just said. Naruto opened his mouth for a moment, then closed it. He looked to be in thought. On one hand, he was angry that he was left in Konoha, but the other told him to try and understand what was going on. He rubbed his temples for a moment. "I'm sorry, but..." He struggled, trying to comprehend this. "Do you have proof?" he asked quietly. Byakuya seemed silent for a moment. "Will he confirm his birth certificate, perhaps?" he questioned in his usual tone. Naruto didn't even flinch at it. He himself had been used to the way he was talked to during his time in the village. "Yes," he agreed. "But before I leave with you, I'd like to at least see the few people who have been good to me." Byakuya hesitated for a moment. Naruto was most likely trying to figure out different scenarios that could have led to his father picking him up now. "Very well, I will be back in an hour. Meet me here." Naruto nodded softly before Byakuya left in a. Naruto rubbed his temples back. "Kyuubi, what do you think?" Kyuubi was unusually silent. "Kid. I suggest you do what you intend." The Great Fox sighed. "Things are going to get very troublesome. I know you might be angry." He trailed off. Truth to tell, as Naruto leapt from tree to tree, he was angry, but it quelled down for a while. Naruto could tell from earlier that his father was analyzing his reaction. Anger was in the former blonde's unique Sharingan eyes. He could tell that his father is surprised by his new eyes. Naruto sighed to himself as he stopped at the Hokage tower. He wanted an explanation as to what happened, deciding to discard his anger for later. Opening to window to Tsunade, he smiled. Hey Tsunade-san. Said woman smiled. Hey Gaki, I assume. Naruto nodded at the hanging question. He asked he talked to you? He asked quietly. Tsunade nodded at the question. She could tell the black-haired genin that he was in an agitated state. What are your thoughts? Naruto was silent for the first 2 minutes. A sigh echoed the room as he sat on the windowsill. My original thought was anger, he stated softly. Swan nodded in understanding. She got up and walked up to Naruto. She smiled, giving some advice. Try hearing his side of the story. Naruto looked at Tsunade. He had surprised Myoto-san. He ended up slightly saddened. Had a reason as to why he couldn't take in his son? He asked with a small snap. Tsunade winced briefly and Naruto sighed. Sorry, he apologized. This is very overwhelming, he admitted as he rubbed the bridge of his nose with his index finger and thumb. Tsunade smiled. I did fill out the paperwork for your release. She started. All that needs to be done is filing the paperwork and handing in your Hi-8. Naruto paused for a moment, then slowly nodded. Alright, but this Hi-8 belonged to Iruka-sensei. He smiled. I'll take it to him. I have Kakashi-sensei to see before I leave. Tsunade smiled. She hadn't seen the black-haired boy like this before. He seemed happy, but was going to leave Konoha without regrets. Alright, good luck. Naruto nodded as he left the window. Swan rubbed her neck. Damn it, the paperwork, she muttered. Naruto popped his head back. And about doing paperwork, why not use Kage Bunshin? He suggested with a smile before quickly leaving. Tsunade paused for a few seconds as the information sunk in. With Naruto, several seconds later. I die you sons of bitches. A manically Kage's voice cackled in sheer insanity. Naruto chuckled for a moment as every shinobi and civilian sweat dropped at the personality of the Kage when it came to paperwork. Naruto shook his head in amusement. God, how he loved the uses of the Kage Bunshin. Stopping at Iruka Yamino's apartment, he knocked on the door. Said man came to the door. He scratched his scar for a moment. Naruto. He smirked. I heard the news, you succeeded on the mission. Naruto nodded gratefully at Iruka-sensei. We need to talk. He leaned on the railing of the balcony. Iruka noted his tone. He nodded moments later. About what? He asked, closing the door behind him. Naruto sighed. I'm leaving Konoha. The single sentence shocked Iruka. Let me continue. My father found me, and it seems I'm going home. He ended quietly. Iruka looked at Naruto. He had a hint of happiness on his face, and some of longing. He was going to miss the place. Sighing moments later, the Tanchuinen nodded. I understand, he smiled. So, I assume you're here to return the Hi-8? He asked quietly. Naruto nodded wordlessly as he handed the blue-clothed Hi-8 to Iruka. Thank you though, Iruka-sensei, he said quietly with a small smile on his face. I enjoyed my time at the academy. He shook his head in remembrance. Iruka chuckled at that. Yay, there were some good times and bad times. The two shared a laugh. Remembering good times, Iruka changed the subject. Anyone else you're going to see before leaving? He asked curiously. Naruto nodded. Kakashi-sensei, he stated simply. Iruka groaned. Please tell me you won't start reading the orange books, he grumbled at the end. Naruto chuckled inwardly. I won't, he rolled his eyes. Getting a mock glare from Iruka only made the young Kichiki to be laugh. Naruto calmed down. Goodbye, Iruka-sensei. I'll see you around. He jumped off the railing the next second. Iruka sighed. Things were not going to be the same without Naruto around. Naruto made his way to another district. He stopped in a tree and sweat dropped seeing Kakashi ignoring Guy once again. Yosh. My eternal rival. Your student should test his flames of youth against my young student. A fire in his eyes lit up as he got in a good guy pose. You say something? Kakashi asked as he looked up from his orange book. I face vaulted. No. Damn you and your hip attitude. He recompassed seconds later. Naruto dropped from the tree as he gave a yo, he said simply. Lee gasped dramatically at another rival. What say you and I run laps around Konoha? He challenged. Naruto looked at Lee, bored. Of course. You say something? He asked, eyes smiling. Lee and Guy face vaulted. Damn both of you and your hip attitudes. The mini-me and sensei accused me. The two shrugged in unison. Yosh. I must surpass Naruto-san's flames of youth by running on my hands. Lee. Guy said with tears going down his cheeks. I will join you in this crusade. Dai-sensei. Lee. Dai-sensei. Lee. Then the horrid beach and white and red strips came up as the two hugged. Naruto shook his head in annoyance. You are a master at ignorance as a bliss, quote, he stated as if it were a fact. Kakashi nodded in agreement. Well, at least someone recognizes my talent, he said cheerfully as he continued to ignore that dropped moments later. The two clones left in a cloud of dust. Naruto rolled his eyes at talent. It's an art form, he joked about, getting a chuckle from Kakashi as he snapped his book shut. So, any reason why you're here? He asked the next second. Naruto nodded. I'm leaving Konoha. It seems my family found me, and he ended quietly. Kakashi's single eye widened in shock, he sighed sadly moments later. I take it, there's no convincing you to stay? He asked, though he already knew the answer. Naruto nodded, making Kakashi sigh. If it makes any comfort, I enjoyed having you as my student, the silver-haired commented. Naruto nodded, then he remembered something that would give the two a good laugh. Hey, you remember that mission with Tora? Normally, Kakashi would have played, but in surprise he laughed. Oh yeah, that mission. Flashback, Tora mission, several hours before C mission assigned. Naruto was highly amused right now, as was Kakashi, who was watching from a tree as he had his book stashed away. The situation for capturing Tora was greatly amusing for the two. Come here, you baka cat. Sasuke yelled as he sped after Tora. The demon cat evaded the Uchiha once more. Come to Sasuke-kun, you dumb cat. Sakura cheered her crush on. Kakashi was sniggering as he interpreted the words. He leaned on a tree branch to keep himself from falling out of said tree. Naruto held a smirk for a while, then it happened. A highly girlish scream echoed from the forest. Sasuke tried to kick the cat to knock it out, but then it bit down on his hot dog. Several awkward moments later, laughter echoed across the forest. Kakashi was laughing so hard that he clutched his stomach as he fell from the tree and rolled on the forest floor while laughing. Naruto was laughing as well, seeing Sasuke get buzzed by the evil Tora. He leaned on a tree for support while Sakura was prying the cat off Sasuke's face, which only made the scratches worse. Tora bolted away the next second. Sasuke saw the two laughing as he did a patented Uchiha glare at the two. Naruto stopped, as did Kakashi, seeing Sasuke's face torn up so bad that he had to use a bucket load of Bactine to heal it. Naruto looked at Kakashi, as did said man. Seeing the scratched Uchiha's face only made the two laugh harder. Then flashback. Kakashi and Naruto were laughing like old-time friends. Ah, I remember that you took a video of it discreetly and gave it to the Anbu HQ. Kakashi laughed. Naruto nodded as he calmed down slightly but still had a chuckle in his voice. Let's not forget that Iruka-sensei enjoyed the show with the orb I provided him. He smirked at the end. Kakashi gave a mock-shocked look. You gave him that thing? He asked incredulously. That explains why he had that damn grin on his face. He muttered thoughtfully to himself. Naruto nodded, amused. He sighed at the end of his novel. Right, I think I've spent enough time here, I've done what I've needed to. Kakashi gave him a look. Anyway, well, good luck with your family, Naruto. I hope the best for you. He shook hands with his now former student. Naruto nodded gratefully. Good luck, Kakashi-sensei, he said one last time before he left. Kakashi chuckled as he flipped open his orange book. Things are gonna be quiet for a while. He sweat dropped seeing a dust cloud in the distance. Kakashi. My eternal rival. The silver-haired Jounin sighed back. Well, better uphold traditions. He smiled to himself before flipping another page in his book. He chuckled inwardly at ignoring the spandex-wearing Jounin. But Naruto. Naruto made his way back to the forest where he had met his father. Many things were going through his mind, like what should he say if Byakuya is his father? What should I do? Who was my mother? Naruto shook his head as he entered the clearing. Byakuya was waiting for him there with a scroll clutched in his hands. Naruto gave a brief nod. The 6th Division Taichu knew full well that the mini-me of him would want to know before confirming it. Byakuya explained this is the birth certificate, but different from others. Seeing his confused expressing, he explained, this has a blood print analysis. He undid the scroll revealing a certificate there, but slightly different as it had 2 thumb prints that were visible. Place your thumbs here and the document will tell. Truthfully, it was an identifying put onto parchment. It was mainly used with clan families in case heirs or members were lost and needed to be confirmed by their blood. Naruto looked skeptical at first, but nodded quietly. He put his thumbs near the corners of the paper. He felt a slight cut formed on both the thumbs. He ignored that as he took his arms back at his side. Then something happened. Slowly, a kanji formed below the parent signature. It said confirmed. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. Kyuubi was, as well, if you could see it, that is. Said former blonde was silent for a few minutes, as if he was deliberating something mentally. He patiently waited for his son's response. It's true, isn't it? Naruto asked softly. His gaze hit the floor. You really are my Otu-san. Byakuya nodded softly. Naruto was extremely silent for another moment. Why? He asked, but Byakuya did not understand as he continued. Why leave me here? He asked softly. Byakuya could see the hurt in the former blonde's eye. He sighed mentally. Back when you were born, the more radical members of my clan tried killing you. Naruto had no reaction. Byakuya took this as a sign to continue. After that, I originally had planned on having you under the care of a Minato Namikaze. Naruto's eyes widened slightly. What changed the situation? Byakuya raised an eyebrow, but did not comment on the fact that he analyzed something so fast. Kyuubi, the flinch did not go unnoticed. The lingering powers of the Kyuubi had blocked me from getting to you. The originally prediction was that it would take no more than 15 years to clear up. He sighed at this point. It took an extra one, he added quietly. Naruto sighed to himself. It was all overwhelming to him, Shinigami, hollows, and the fact that Kyuubi had interfered with his life, though he did not blame the fox for what had happened. Byakuya decided it was time for the finisher, and there is another part of my explanation you should know. Naruto looked up at this, he sighed mentally. Kyuubi. Byakuya took in a sigh. The Kachiki clan itself is one of the 4 noble families. Silence. Naruto muttered something that made the man sigh again. This is going to take some time. Byakuya could not help but agree on that fact. For the next 3 hours, Byakuya had gone over the Shinigami and their duties along with a military organization, coupled by 13 divisions called the Gateiju Sentai, 13 division imperial squads, which dealt with regulating the human world by sending purified souls to the Soul Society and the Hollows. Which Byakuya had explained were decayed human souls that fell to their inner hunger. Then the explanation for the attack he had done earlier with his katana, which was called as Anpakudo, Soul Cutter, a manifestation of the Shinigami's power. Each had a different type of power though. Naruto understood the basics of all this, but knew that there was more in-depth things than usual. He decided to file it away for later reference. I know the fox as well, Byakuya said coolly. Naruto felt panic rise in him. Byakuya, seeing this, observed, I assume that you think that I'd view you as the fox. Naruto nodded shortly. He looked away, as if he did not want to meet his father's gaze. What felt like an eternity to Naruto finally ended. The former blonde sighed. He's trained me. He gave me these eyes in hopes to try and make up for the hell his sealing caused me. He said simply, as he looked at his father. Byakuya went wide-eyed here. Most Shinigami assumed the fox was a creature of pure destruction. But why help a boy? Naruto would have chuckled, but explained about 10 years ago, he broke free of an illusion on himself. He sighed here. It eventually led up to me going on a training trip. He finished at the end, remembering that he was kicked out of the orphanage at the age of 6 and met the Kyuubi. Seeing its container weak at this point, decided to train the former blonde by taking him on a trip across the elemental nations. Byakuya nodded slowly in understanding. Naruto asked a question that came up. Otu-san, he started out. If Shinigami can't be seen, why am I here now? Byakuya nodded at the question. In the Soul Society, to post Shinigami at certain locations, a gig-eye, faux body, is used to blend in with humans, that way they can do their mission without being noticed. Yours is a specially crafted one that has chakra pathways and a growth capability. Naruto understood the infiltration part, but wondered who would come up with such a device. In Soul Society, a lazy mad scientist sneezed, making him spill chemicals on the ground, thus making him freak out momentarily. Naruto sighed. All his questions had been answered, and he now asked, what now? He asked, the last question being on his mind. In response, Byakuya unsheathed his and stabbed into the air in front of him. The odd thing was that it seemed to tear into space. A clicking sound was heard, as if a door was being opened. Byakuya said 3 words that seemed to make Naruto smile inwardly. Now, we go home. The sun rose over Konoha. It was unusually silent for the vibrant village hidden in the leaves. Tsunade watched the sun with a steaming cup of tea. She sighed at the silence and missed the sophisticated black-haired. Danzo raged hell over the situation since the property of Konoha was let go so easily, but she countered he would never be returning, almost as if she wanted to be smug and tell the old warhawk that Naruto was in the Soul Society. Shaking her head with a smile, the council could bitch all they wanted about Naruto, she could just shut up those high, mighty bakas with killing intent. The chibi self of her in her mind cackled in sadistic glee. Shizune stepped into the room with more paperwork. She sweat dropped, seeing the grin on her face. Tsunade saw as she broke her of the reverie. Swan frowned for a moment seeing the paperwork on her desk, then smirked. Shizune raised an eyebrow. She never acted like this. New paperwork. Tsunade nodded, making a cage bunchin to do the paperwork. Shizune gaped. How? Tsunade grinned, and Naruto gave me the secret to defeating paperwork, she said smugly. Shizune just nodded, dumbfounded. Where is he now? Tsunade dropped the smile. He left, she said simply, getting a shocked gasp from her apprentice. His father found him after 16 years, she explained, getting a shocked look from Shizune. Then why didn't he say goodbye? Tsunade finished with a raised eyebrow. There wasn't much to say goodbye to, she said quietly, as her attention went back to the sunrise. Shizune was silent. She nodded softly before leaving the room to inform the Rookie 9. What? Kiba Inuzuka yelled. In the hospital he left. Shino pushed up his sunglasses with a cool demeanor. Most unusual. What reasoning is behind this, Shizune-san? He questioned in monotone. Shizune sighed that Naruto's family more or less had picked him up, she said simply, understanding that Tsunade did not want to go into detail. Hinata had a different reaction as she thought back on Naruto. He was once a nice and polite child, but antisocial a little. But after the training trip, he changed into a serious individual that seemed detached from society. She shuddered inwardly, remembering a cold look that had crossed the now black-haired Genin's face. Will he return? Shizune was silent at Hinata's question. That was all that was needed to confirm the question. Soul Society, Kichiki Clan Compound. The running stream of the Kichiki clan compound was all that Naruto had heard. He sighed to himself at this point. He was now out of his, flexing his hand for a moment. Upon discovering his, he had tamed it down to a low level, but still had trouble in control. Naruto was sitting under a sakura blossom tree. It had been only a day since Naruto had left. According to his father, the clan had known of Naruto's existence, but had questioned it when it came to his mother, whom he'd be meeting later. The young Kichiki once again sighed. Kyuubi was actually enthusiastic on teaching Naruto. Apparently he knew many high level from his time and infiltration of the Shinigami, though Naruto opted to focus first on and the physical aspects before making his way up to high level. Naruto remembered an old saying from his training days. Training the body to suit the mind, he muttered with a shake of his head. Kyuubi had agreed and compromised to train Naruto in, and though controlling him would be tough for the young Kichiki. Naruto looked to the clan council chambers. It had been over an hour. Deciding to pass the time, he opened a pocketbook that had the kanji for Gate 13 law book and clan laws. Elder clan chambers. The council deliberated with Byakuya on the matter of his son. Most were more than willing to accept Naruto, though the Kyuubi part had sent them on a frenzy of anger. Byakuya immediately calmed them down, stating that the Great Fox would be helping Naruto, which more than dumbfounded the council members. Does it want to help your son? One council member asked incredulously, drawing a nod. Mesmerized whispers emanated in the chambers. Odd, I had thought the Kyuubi was a being of chaos, one council member murmured thoughtfully. Byakuya shook his head. Not quite so, it was under an illusion, giving it the look of a bloodthirsty beast, he explained shortly, drawing slow nods of understanding. Alright, this does clear a few points. One of the more level-headed members of the council. He had black mixed with grey hairs with a single bang or two framing his forehead. His name was Sato Kichiki, a former Shinigami. After an incident with a hollow ended his career, he was about in his mid-40s. And appeared to be wearing council robes with a black scarf around his neck that stopped at his collarbone. But how much potential does he show, Byakuya-sama? Sato inquired in curiosity. Byakuya sighed mentally, knowing that this would come up eventually. He has told me that he has high hand-to-hand combat and sword specialty, but he has no other skilled areas, as of yet. Sato nodded. And what of his levels? Byakuya thought for a moment. When we first took him out of his, it was skyrocketing to mid-taicho. He got bewildered looks as he continued, but eventually he suppressed it in a short amount of time to the level of a 5th seed officer. Sato was shocked. A council member asked, does that mean he has control? Suppressed is different from control, Sato explained, but the mere fact that he does have this achievement shows that he has the potential to become a powerful Shinigami. Byakuya was mentally praising the wiser council members until. So what? An arrogant member said. That proves nothing of the sort. That he has potential, he snorted at the end. Sato looked at him. When was the last time that a Kichiki had such accomplishments? He questioned. A century ago. 2. He continued. If properly trained, he could become a powerful Shinigami and clan head. He looked at Byakuya, giving an apologetic look, and Byakuya gave a discreet nod. The council member sneered. He's a brat, as far as I'm concerned. Byakuya decided to ignore that comment. We shall see, he said in a cool tone before turning heel and walking out of the door, leaving behind a wandering council and one disgruntled one. As the members exited, they did not notice the dark look on the arrogant council member's face. His name was Akira Kichiki. He was one of the old traditionalist Kichikis that mainly focused on pure blood. However, times had changed since then. People were beginning to be flexible. The reason Byakuya had married 16 years back was because it was done under Kichiki clan law. And in a formal marriage ceremony. Akira scowled in anger. Kuso. Damn, I was hoping that this would not happen. He yelled in his mind. That brat was to die the day he was born. He clenched his fists tightly. But I can abide for some time. A malicious grin came onto his face. Naruto felt his eyes snap up from his book. He was trained to act on gut feeling. When it came down to someone talking about him, it felt like hatred. He sighed mentally, seeing council members exit. Some were curious glances as he saw a slight interest, but one was of hate, though it disappeared as quick as it came. Turning his attention back to the book, he snapped it shut with a sigh. He had finished it, of course, but now he was moving on to one entitled The History of the Soul Society, he muttered as he began reading. Byakuya shot his eyebrows up in surprise. He was actually reading a few textbooks, as well as a few law books. He was glad internally that Naruto was taking the situation seriously. He could see Naruto was deep into his studies. The environment seemed to make him relaxed and peaceful, as he could note from the sway of the trees from the gentle breeze. And the calming running of the stream that went through the Kichiki Manor. Comparing it to Konoha, his son seemed more tense and wary of his environment, but he could see from the boy's eye, he kept a wary look. Byakuya frowned mentally. Most of the assassins were captured after the incident, and since then most of the Kichiki counselors who had tried the attempt were arrested or executed. As a result, he had a right to be cautious. Now, only 14 of the conspirators were captured and 1 was left. Byakuya had suspected Akira, but had no proof of leading him to the crime. He'd have to bide his time, as such. Though the academy would make many options open for Naruto, he still had to agree to it. Walking up to Naruto, the boy looked up at Otu-san, and he acknowledged. Byakuya nodded. I see you're getting ready. He gazed at the small pile of books. Naruto nodded shortly. Yes, I figured I could get a jump start before Shinu Academy begins. Byakuya nodded in approval. You want to do an academy? He raised an eyebrow. Naruto returned it evenly. The alternative would be homeschooling, correct? He asked, drawing a nod. Well, I'd rather not impose. Me being your son would attract unwanted attention, given the fact it would be viewed as favoritism. Now that got Byakuya's attention. Somewhat humble, he thought. Very well, I'll set up the paperwork with the Seicho, Captain Commander. Naruto nodded at arigato. Thank you. By the way, is there a library in the compound? Byakuya nodded in confirmation, calling a servant over. He asked Byakuya-sama, what do you need? Show my son to the library in the compound. It is his first time here. The servant nodded quickly as he led Naruto away. Byakuya sighed to himself before picking up the appropriate paperwork. Picking up a 3-page packet, he filled it out gracefully in minutes before leaving in a burst of. In the library, Naruto was reading books. Most were history books, but mainly Naruto wanted techniques that Kyuubi could not teach him. HAVE to say, the Onakitsukido, covert ops, interests me, he thought to Kyuubi. No kidding, kid, we're talking about high-speed techniques here, Kyuubi replied, though I do have to ask what division you'd be most interested in joining. Naruto hemmed for a moment as he took out another book from the shelves. NIDANTAI, second division, is much like the shinobi lifestyle that would be familiar to me. Also, from what I can tell, my speed has increased since coming here. Before I was as fast as Lee without his weights because of you and sparring with him, he thought logically. If I was to combine my natural speed with. Kyuubi mentally nodded in agreement. You would be a force to be reckoned with, that much is true, but what about the Gabantai? 5th division. Naruto was silent on that. Did Naruto snapped back to attention. Why, oh, you have that feeling too, eh? He thought, opening a book that detailed the current Taichos, Fuku Taichos, and divisions. He flipped to the Gabantai Fuku Taicho. With a frown he read and Sasuke. The nagging thing to the Kichiki was that damn irritating smile that Aizen's photo had plastered on his face. Over the years Naruto had been taught how to recognize fake emotions and smiles. This one was downright scary to him, as if a massive force was hidden behind it. Well, I admit, the guy is suspicious, but remember though, just because he smiles all the damn time doesn't mean he's up to something, Kyuubi stated. Naruto wanted to dissuade his sensei's words, he just hated the feeling of fake emotions around others. Naruto-sama. Naruto calmly looked over to the servant. He was carrying a plate that had a cup of tea. Arigato, he said before taking the cup. The servant bowed low before leaving the room. Naruto sipped the tea with a sigh as he put it on a table, returning to more literature. He took out a book about the Shihoin clan. He thought, interested before opening it up. Seicho's office. 1st Division headquarters. Byakuya handed the paperwork over. The old man looked it over. He had a black hakama, and he had a long gray beard and a cane with a white haori draped on his shoulders and had the kanji for 1 on the back. I assume this is it? The old man asked. Byakuya nodded yes. Seicho responded in his usual tone. The old man had a ghost of a smile. Has he settled in just fine? Byakuya mentally raised an eyebrow. Only he, Naruto's mother, and Yamamoto Shijikuni Genryusai knew of the Kichiki heir. Byakuya stated simply. Yamamoto sighed to himself as he changed the subject. These are serious charges you are presenting along with your son's academy application. He looked over the 3 names of the people who tried ruining or ending Naruto's life. Hamura. Kaheru. Danzo. I will select to retrieve these people, Yamamoto started. An appropriate punishment will be selected. Now go home, Kichiki Taicho. Your son begins the academy in a week, he ended with a smile. Byakuya's lips twitched for a moment before leaving. Yamamoto called up his vice captain. Yes, Itacho, the man asked. He had a western look about him. His name was Jajiro Sasuke. Send out a hell butterfly to Khan Fan. I have a matter I need to discuss with him. Tajiro nodded quickly before leaving the room. Minutes later, a man with short black hair. He looked short and petite. His hair is then tied back into two spiky ponytails. Then he had gray eyes and stood at a height of 4'11". Satacho Khan Fan greeted with a bow. Yamamoto nodded as he was at full height. Khan Fan, there is a question I would ask of you. Khan Fan raised an eyebrow in surprise, but recompassed with his stony demeanor, Yamamoto asked, are you running low on servants in the Fan clan? He got both eyebrows raised in surprise. This was getting to be an odd day. The Chiki clan compound. Naruto snapped a book shut. It echoed in the lone library lit by a single candle. Naruto ran a hand through his hair. He had mainly gone over the Kichiki clan history, as well as the Shihuin, but the other ones he had gone over the hierarchy of the Surieti, Court of Pure Souls. The Central 46 made all decisions that would go through. They decided who lived and who died. Being blunt here, Naruto snorted mentally. He knew full well that the laws they put in place protected both them and the human world, but in Naruto's view, the law was full of loopholes and wasn't perfect, but they were blunt in his own opinion. There were several instances in Soul Society's history that there were blank parts. Naruto leaned back in his chair, observing the flickering candle before Naruto shook his head. Why was this eerie feeling nagging at the back of his mind? Why did he feel as if something was wrong with the environment around him? I have more questions than I do answers, Naruto mused to himself. Hey LL, things reveal themselves in due time. He took a sip of tea, trying to process what he's been reading. Iubi was unusually silent as well. He too had a gut feeling on what was going on after what they read. It believe me, I have a feeling as well as to what is going on here, Kyubi thought to himself. Naruto leaned his head on his left fist. He sighed to himself as he took another sip of tea. He had already taken a look at the academy schedule. His first term would begin in less than a week. Once again, the Kichiki sighed as he strode over to the window. The sun was setting on the Soul Society, leaving a trace of purple and orange in the sky. It was a lovely sight. It's been enough for a single day. For now, let's focus on the current situation. He turned heel and blew out the candle, leaving nothing but darkness to consume the room. Naruto saw the moon unveil itself from a cloud. He stopped and decided to take in the quiet night. He quite liked nights like these, when he was alone and the chirping of crickets accompanied him. Seeing Byakuya out of the corner of his eyes, Byakuya walked up and spoke when he stopped. The conspirators against you in the real world are caught. When he started, Naruto closed his eyes in relief. Do you wish to face them? Naruto was quiet for a minute. No, he stated softly. Konoha is no longer a part of my life, he finished softly. Byakuya nodded in understanding before he turned and left. Naruto sighed to himself. Come on kid, though he may not show it, your Otu-san cares more for you than you realize. Naruto mentally nodded in agreement. I suppose so. He looked at the moon. Everyone has their own way of showing they care for others. Byakuya, almost as if he was reading Naruto's thoughts, smiled to himself before leaving. Stopping at the first division, he heard shouting from inside. You cannot do this to us. Kahara yelled. Danzo merely scowled at their situation. Hamura sneered. What crimes could we possibly haven't done to you? Han Fan looked at Yamamoto, clearly questioning. Should I kill them? Yamamoto rubbed his temples. You three have harmed a clan heir, as well as attempted to end his life or make him a weapon, he scowled. Khan Fan wondered who this clan heir was and who could be so important. The clan itself is a defender of the Soul Society and of the four noble families. Khan Fan's eyes widened slightly. Now this was interesting, he mused to himself as he kept up his stony demeanor. What? Maura yelled. The boy you speak of is an abomination. Danzo stayed silent. Why he had these fools work for him, he had no idea. Byakuya had anger, but kept it down. As the doors swung open, Khan Fan, putting the pieces together, had his eyes widened in shock for the first time in his life. Kichiki Taicho, Yamamoto greeted. He got a nod. As punishment for your transgressions, you will have your cut off and tied down. As servants to the Fan clan, he directed his attention to the three elders. The three exploded with outrage until they were sent to their knees by Byakuya's. He looked down on them with gray eyes that held cold, unbridled fury. It calmed down moments later. The protesting former council members were literally dragged out of the room by On Mitsukido. Khan Fan finally found his voice. Your heir, Kichiki Taicho. Byakuya nodded. Yamamoto started. I would like it if this information was kept secret for now. He will be starting the academy a week from now. This will be announced formally among the Taichu. Khan Fan complied with a nod before wondering what this news would bring for Soul Society. Meanwhile, one secretly god-wanting Fuku Taicho sneezed before returning to his paperwork. But Naruto. The giggle was heard by Naruto. He looked around the area and saw no one, then the giggle echoed again. Naruto raised an eyebrow here. So, you're my wielder? A melodious voice said his mind. And you're my Zanpakuto, Naruto concluded logically, hiding his surprise quickly. Correct, it's been 16 years. The giggle happened again. "What is your name then?" he asked. "My name is..." Naruto sighed quietly, he could feel disappointment. "You haven't heard my name, and you have not seen me, yet you try to do something like this." Naruto mentally chuckled at the voice's pout near the end. "Anything is worth a try," he thought with an amused tone. The voice giggled, "Ah well, you'll have to meet as well." The voice laughed before fading away. Naruto felt his eyes widen as the voice faded back. "Kyuubi, did you get that?" Kyuubi nodded. "Certainly did, kid, that was your, seems, as if you have another." Naruto groaned to himself, why did his life have to become so unnecessarily complicated? Kyuubi chuckled. "At least you don't have any romance problems," the great fox jokes, trying to lighten up the situation. Naruto chuckled softly in amusement as he began to make his way to his own room. It wasn't too complicated for him, a simple futon and a nice view of the garden if you slid the porch doors open. He preferred a bit of nature nearby. Naruto had heavy thoughts as he slid the door open and admired the garden. His thoughts turned to Aizen Sasuke. He frowned at the name momentarily. The man appeared to be wearing a mask to hide his true self, yet that contradicted with what the book said about his profile. Safe to say, he had an uneasy feeling around the man. Naruto heard knocking on his door. Turning to face with Byakuya, he spoke on his usual tone. "It's time you met your mother, follow me." Naruto was shocked the first milliseconds. He recompassed with a deep breath as he followed his father moments later. Thoughts plagued his mind with questions of how his mother would view him. Would she love him? Byakuya stopped as he slid a door open. Naruto stepped in moments later. He analyzed the woman sitting in the room on her knees. She had black hair tied into a braid that went down her chest, then she had blue eyes with a gentle face, and had a black and hakama that was worn with a white haori that had sleeves going down to the wrist and seemed to have a short nadachi with a leather strap. "He looks a lot like you, Byakuya-kun," she said softly with a smile on her face. As she stood up, Byakuya's lips twitched upwards as if he was indicating a smile. Byakuya introduced to the shell-shocked Naruto. He didn't show it. "Naruto, this is your mother, Unohanaretsu." Naruto didn't show shock, but was inwardly, he had already read the history of the Gate 13, and certainly didn't expect this. Unohanaretsu was widely known as the Inbantai Taicho. The 4th division was mainly looked down upon for its cowardice, though she defended the division like a leopard protecting its cubs. She was one of the oldest Taichos of the Gate 13 besides Yukitechu Ishiro and Shunshui Kairyaku, the apprentices of the Sateicho, Captain Commander, Yamamoto Shijikuni Jinuyusai. The main thought is how she got together with Byakuya due to toleration of his cold attitude, but he had to admit that there was more than meets the eye. Unohana smiled sweetly. Naruto twitched mentally. He forgot about the fact that she was mainly feared among her Taichos. Despite her gentle demeanor, hell, he had already heard a rumor that the 2 apprentices would rather die by their sensei's bankai rather than suffer her wrath. Naruto found his voice, despite the fact it was eerily calm. Unohanaretsu, as in Bantai. He questioned, getting a surprised look from said woman. It disappeared as she smiled. "Correct, I can see you've already gotten your studies started," she said softly. Naruto nodded at that. Unohana smiled at Byakuya-kun, "I believe he should at least talk to me for a while. You've done your part." Byakuya nodded. He did have a soft spot for Unohana. Not that he'd ever admitted. Leaving the room the next second, Unohana's smile was replaced with a frown. "I already heard of the treatment done to you by the Konoha Council in the living world," she stated. Naruto had no reaction. "If I may ask, what is their punishment?" His tone was laced calmly, though a hint of amusement was hidden in. Unohana chuckled softly, making her way to the small patio. Patting beside her, Naruto took a seat. "They've been made servants of the Fawn clan, they will last them until it's sealed away." Naruto imagined that and chuckled quietly at the protectors of the Shihoin clan. "Correct?" he asked, getting an approving nod from Unohana again. "Correct, Sachi-san." Naruto wasn't caught off guard. He mostly expected the love part from his parents came from his mother. "Thanks," he replied quietly. Unohana asked, "How much have you gone over in the Soul Society?" Naruto looked thoughtful. "Mostly the clan histories and the Davidsons. I've begun memorizing the law book," though he smiled slightly. Unohana was impressed. She knew there was one portion that she had not asked yet. "Sachi, I had already heard from Byakuya-kun about Kyuubi." Naruto showed no reaction other than looking away at the moment. Unohana gently put a hand on his shoulder in a comforting gesture. "Sachi, you are you, the Kyuubi is Kyuubi," she said soothingly. "Byakuya-kun already explained him to me, though if you wouldn't mind I would like to do a quick analysis of your eyes." Naruto felt himself warm slightly. With a small smile he replied moments later, "Thanks for understanding, Aka-san. Yes, you can do your analysis." Unohana smiled and muttered an incantation and held her hands over his eyes before taking them away and asked, "Now, what about your likes and dislikes?" She moved the conversation towards Naruto. Naruto smiled. It may have been late at night, but this could take the cake. A week later, Shinu Academy, 10 am. Over the past week of Naruto's education, mostly in history and politics, he found a liking for the two, which surprised Byakuya and gave more than one amused thought with Unohana. He more than memorized the history of the Soul Society, as well as its laws, though Central 46 didn't sit well with the young Kichiki. Speaking bad about a high-level government would only draw unnecessary attention to himself. Deciding to keep his opinion to himself, he found it odd that the Central 46 had total reign of decisions in the Soul Society. And screwing the fact that they have not had neither combat training nor seen a hollow. Naruto looked at the Shinu Technical Spirit Academy. It gently rained sakura blossoms in the mid-morning, giving it a nice clean look. Naruto smoothed down his academy uniform. It had a blue hakama with the blue mixed with white. Then he wore tabi socks and sandals. Pretty nice, he thought, as he leaned on a tree, observing most of the students gathered. He could tell most were from minor or noble clans, mixed with a moderate number of ones from the Rukongai. The Rukongai, Wandering Spirit Town, was where souls came after Kanso, soul burial. They lived and stayed in those sections, while the farther ones up to the Rukongai District 80 was aptly named the Zaraki District. As the current Taicho of the 11th Division was from there, Zaraki Kenpachi was a name handed down from each Taicho. He had defeated the previous one by combat in only one swing, thus showing their apparent use in. Naruto heard a certain fox wake up. "Hey kid, how's it going now?" Naruto replied mentally, "Starting Academy, politics and history back home, the usual." Kyuubi gave a grunt. "Finally something interesting happens. Have to say though, you're one of the more interesting hosts I've had." Naruto blinked in surprise. He recompassed as he walked casually through the entrance. "Hosts? You've had others?" he asked incredulously. Was the fox content with him? Kyuubi laughed heartily. "Damn straight kid, all of them were human. There never was a container for me that was a Shinigami, death god. Like I said, your life is very interesting now." Naruto couldn't help but agree. "True though, when I gain my Zanpakuto." "Kid, don't get too far ahead of yourself. You're taking the exam, right?" Naruto nodded mentally. "Right, the placement one, either advanced class or the normal ones. I say we aim high. I held back a lot back during Konoha times." Kyuubi grinned, and Naruto could feel it. Yes. He yelled, "No more looking weak for you kid." Naruto couldn't hold back an amused expression. Kyuubi may love battle at times, even being peaceful, but sometimes he was just downright odd, which more than made Naruto's life fun. Recompassing, he made his way to the classrooms, entering the Shinigami class. It appeared to be a great hall with enough room for 100 students. Think in Renji's academy flashback. Naruto sat near the front, as it would help him experience more. Him staying awake though wasn't a problem, as Kyuubi was pushed Naruto to do exercises every morning. He steadily increased his speed. Then came an idea from Naruto to make something similar to gravity weights in the elemental nations that would come along later in time. Naruto watched as an old man appeared to the class. He wore a white haori and had a normal Shinigami uniform. Closing the door behind him, he spoke up. "Greetings students, I welcome you here today to the Shinu Spiritual Academy. Here you will be given a test that will decide your placement in the academy. Any questions?" He received none. "Now then, take out pencils and erasers. You have at least 2 hours to finish this test. It will pertain mainly to your knowledge of Zanpakuto, the divisions, the history of the Soul Society, and the Sirite, along with current Shinigami, as well. You may begin." He took a seat and observed the students, then his eyes fell on Naruto. The Kichiki heir. "This will be a most interesting prospect," he smiled to himself before observing the other students. Naruto glanced out of his eyes seeing students rush to finish their tests. Instead he took his time looking over the questions. How did the founding of the academy occur? What is a Zanpakuto and its releases? What differences are there in Kido? Have to say this doesn't go over the mechanics in using Kido, the incantations. As such he began his test 5 minutes later after looking over the small packet of questions. Naruto answered one question: why is the incantation needed to use Kido? Simple, to stabilize the spell. Kyuubi answered lazily, only to get a mental whack upside the head. Itai. Naruto answered irritably. "No helping me fox, you know that would be cheating." This coming from the guy who is a former shinobi. Kyuubi countered dryly. "There's a difference between a shinobi and a shinigami." Baka he retorted, getting a growl. "Fine then, answer those questions." Naruto heard Kyuubi's grumbling, then that innocent giggle echoed in his head, making him sigh to himself "Why me?" He thought sadly before continuing his test. Kyuubi chuckled to himself, his aunt Bakuto was still calling him up. More than 2 hours later, the tests ended and the sensei collected them. Thank you all for your time today. Tomorrow the results will be posted and you will receive a schedule from the registration office, and please pick up your dorm room assignments today. The class got up to leave, then Naruto felt some murderous intent on him, but it left as quickly as it came. Naruto glanced around the room with a keen gaze searching for the individual, shaking his head to himself before walking out, his thoughts going through his head. He knew full well that his Otu-san had captured most of the conspirators in the clan, but there was one in the report that had gotten away, most likely an assassin was planted in the school. Naruto thought with amusement "A classic trick, blend in with the background is a common information and gathering strategy." Naruto knew that there was at least one person in the clan who despised him. He got to know the Kichiki clan well over. There weren't any disgruntled members against him, though his mind went to one person, an elder council member. It made sense, if an elder were spotted among students, they'd be respected like any noble and would be overlooked without any evidence to support claims of treason. Deciding to put these thoughts to rest, he got his dorm room number and took out a book he had bought earlier "Shinigami" he thought to himself as he opened the pocketbook and began to read. Naruto lay on the lower bunk bed, putting away his book. He fell asleep, but not as most would think. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto made his way across a meadow to see a man with crimson red hair and had a sleeveless guy that was black and had crimson edgings. Then he had black cargo pants with jettas. He stood at a height of 6'3" and had slit crimson eyes. "Hey kid, ready to start keto?" Naruto nodded. "I take it you're not much for healing keto." He twitched seeing Kyuubi look sheepish. "That never was my area of expertise, but your Aka-san can help you in that area," he pointed out at the end. Naruto nodded. Kyuubi smirked. "Now, when it comes down to keto, it's all about the flow of Inu. Gaining control is necessary for any keto user, be it master or beginner," he explained. "I know that we should practice Bakudo to keep up Ryatsu control." "Why Bakudo?" Kyuubi smirked at Naruto's question. "Simple, the power of a Bakudo or keto all depends on how much is put into said attack or restraint." Naruto added, "Not to mention the incantations increase the power of the keto, as well as controlling it." Kyuubi nodded at Naruto's added fact and smirked. "Right, and in a few years' time I will have you casting multiple high-level keto and Bakudo with just a snap of your fingers. What Naruto will do in my other Bleach story. After all, I do love our tour training sessions. 20 minutes outside is a week in here. Now let's work on Bakudo 4. Hinewa." Several hours later. The sun began to shine through the window. Naruto blinked his eyes and cleared the blurs. With a yawn he heard Kyuubi rise and shine. "Kichiki," yelled the fox. "We have got a few laps to do, as well as 100 push-ups and crunches." Naruto twitched for a moment before looking at the digital clock. "SIXAM, schedules are posted at 8. I think we can squeeze in an extra lap or two," he thought to himself, getting up. Naruto tested his limbs for a few moments. Kyuubi had decided to start out small on Bakudo and got up to 40 mastered to just 1 per snap, so not up to Kyuubi's standards, but keto was a different story in his mindscape. Last night, he had already gotten up to 60 mastered to multiple ketos with just 1 snap of his fingers, which did catch Kyuubi by surprise. Naruto had greater control in attacking rather than immobilizing the enemy. Fun fact: Kisu can cast some Bakudo spells with a snap of his fingers. Getting out of thought, he stretched for a few moments. "HOW many laps?" he thought before going out the window. Last time was 12, you can do better, so we'll kick it up to 15. Naruto nodded. His stamina had to be increased first. Taking down an enemy was crucial to ending a fight. Wear them down to find their weaknesses and make the finisher was a strategy that Naruto used in fights. Making his way to the forest, he did a few stretches so as to not to sprain his muscles. Doing push-ups, he counted 51-52. He continued. "Hey sensei, any particulars you'd like for me to focus on during academy?" Kyuubi hemmed for a moment. Ho, I mean, think about it, you could be a speed demon by the end of the year if you keep up your stamina regimens," he shrugged. "Not to mention your natural speed will add up. Also, like you said, your speed plus will be a very great combo with your sword skills, which will only increase with time." Naruto nodded at that, feeling sweat break onto his skin. He began to do one-handed push-ups. "Still though, think about Hakuda, the stuff they have in academy is too basic. You got any suggestions?" "Alright, let me think for a moment." Kyuubi was in thought for 2 minutes. "I have a deep knowledge of hand-to-hand combat. I'd suggest 2 styles, one for disabling and wearing down the enemy, then breaking bones or killing the enemy." "The first one please." "The first would be Wushu. I'd recommend this out of the versatility of the style, not to mention the agility. Naruto mentally nodded for Kyuubi to continue, as he began his laps around a lake. Next would be Mudbourne. It's an old fighting style in the human world, but rarely taught due to the brutal way it breaks bones. I'll take those, take them down or kill them quickly and effectively, regardless of if it is brutal, Naruto stated with Kyuubi nodding with a huge grin on his face. Naruto panted, he walked to a stop as he felt sweat glisten his being after 14 laps. Looking at the sun, he deduced it was at least 7:15. Better get a shower done and some breakfast, he thought to himself before leaving in a calm walk. 5 minutes later, he reached back to his dorm, took a towel, and went to the bathroom. A minute later he came out refreshed, slipping on a clean academy uniform and tied his black hair into a high ponytail and left the room. Walking through the halls, he heard a few whispers directed at him. Naruto for the most part ignored the excited whispering, as information got out that he was the son of Byakuya Kichiki and Unohana Retsu. He could only imagine what the other Taichos were thinking. Achoo. Byakuya sneezed, wiping it clean with a handkerchief. He sighed and took a sip of tea in the late morning. Unohana smiled, they say when you sneeze, someone's talking about you. Byakuya turned his calm gaze to Unohana, I highly doubt that. What about Naruto then? She questioned slightly. Byakuya twitched mentally. It had been less than a day since the exposing of their marriage and having a son. Already he had Tichos talking up the park, as well as the 3 other clans. Flashback, 1 day ago academy applicants. Byakuya sighed inwardly, this meeting would not end well, he mused to himself. Yamamoto cleared his throat, and now, we are on to our last applicant, he announced. Kenpachi Zaraki got a relieved groan, though Yamamoto ignored it. Our last applicant. Byakuya prepared for the storm. Unohana just smiled and stayed quiet, though the ones who knew her like Yushiro Yukitake and Shunshui Kyayaku were raising eyebrows at her current demeanor and decided to wave it off as some new Ikebana lesson. Naruto Kichiki Unohana. At that statement, all was silent, not even a cricket was willing to chirp. Yamamoto was amused inwardly, it had been a long time since anything interesting happened among the Taichos. Kichiki Retsu Jushiro said slowly, shock and a gape were present as he looked at Unohana who was smiling brightly. The reactions actually varied among the Taichos, the more their reactions were like this. Shunshui felt his jaw detach and hit the floor with a bug-eyed expression as he dropped his bottle of sake. Shinji was gaping fully. Tensei slumped slightly, as if he were stumbling. Love felt his jaw detach as his glasses slipped off for the first time in 150 years. Bajiro's eyes widened in surprise. Zaraki tried forming words, but got incoherent sentences. Kisuke was giddy, certainly interested. Yoruichi curled an eyebrow before a sly smirk appeared on her face. Yamamoto cleared his throat, getting their attention back. PRICELESS'. That concludes the current roster of students for this year. They nodded dumbly at this, trying to comprehend what the hell had just happened. Byakuya sighed internally that things did not explode, but the amusement he got out of the situation went better than he thought. Then flashback. Byakuya sighed, taking a sip of tea to calm his nerves at the last event. Back with Naruto, he was checking his schedule and scores on the test. To say he was surprised was an understatement inwardly. Naruto's schedule. Hoho Shunpo AC, Advanced Class, First Period. Zanjutsu's and Bakudo Theory AC Second Period. Kido Bakudo Theories and Practice AC Third Period. Lunch Period. Bakudo AC Fifth Period. Soul Society History AC Sixth Period. Naruto overall thought it was a good schedule, the advanced classes were going to have the parts he missed. Then the history part would more than help him, the main classes that interested him were Hakuda and Hoho though. Naruto put the slip into his, taking a look at the bulletin he saw that. Naruto Kichiki Retsu. Score 99%, advanced placement. Naruto chuckled inwardly, walking away he felt a gaze pierce into his back, he narrowed his eyes slightly, there was a threat to him and the school. Naruto came to an open field according to the schedule, a crowd of students had gathered at the field, revealing a long wide dirt field, as much as a football field only twice as large. Everyone. Listen up. The sensei got their attention. He had dark blue hair that had a few bangs at his forehead. He wore a blue with a dark blue hakama. Today will be the first Shunpo lesson. Simply gather at the feet. He disappeared in a burst of to the midfield, then appeared back in the spot he was standing and using Shunpo requires control and the strength of the individual that can use it. Naruto scratched his chin for a moment. Shunpo I have read up on variants in the Nabantai, he mused to himself before shaking his head to get back to the current class. And begin. Most of the students began sluggishly from the sensei's observation. Naruto however was doing extremely well as he did not appear to be winded, which was noticed by only the sensei. He looked down the field to the observer who nodded at what he had seen. They were thoroughly surprised to see an academy student being so fast on the first day of the academy. Not even Yoruichi did that. This was practiced by the class for a while, most of the students were exhausted by the end of the class. Naruto, however, didn't even look winded as he took a deep breath. Now this was going down in the report. The sensei was impressed. The Kichiki kid obviously had this down already. He shook his head. The report was going to make the Taichos have a field day. Naruto had already predicted this outcome, then something caught his eye. Glasses glinted in the distance, but none noticed it. Naruto ignored it obviously, but he recognized the rimmed glasses that were black. Once he was out of sight of the area, he had to move on to his next period, Zanjutsu. The class was, moreover, a dojo with a student sitting a foot or two from the wall. Naruto took his seat as the class began. Hey everyone, glad to see you here today for advanced Zanjutsu. Today we will discuss the formation of A, as well as sparring. I will show instructions in using Bakken for our spars. Naruto inwardly scoffed. He was already coming up with a style to use when it came to sword play. A and Y ideas for now. Kyuubi snored. A small sweat drop appeared on the back of Naruto's head. Forget, I'll ask later. Mentally shaking his head, he turned his attention back to the lesson. He had finished his class, and safe to say, it went over well, with him defeating the second best in the class. Though he finished the spar quickly with a few vital points hit, the student was injured. That was a little over the top with the finisher. Naruto shrugged mentally. IMING for the shoulder was necessary. He shot back coolly. Kyuubi sighed. Oh, for Christ's sake, you're a fucking former shinobi, have some concept of honor. Naruto snorted mentally. Shinobis use dirty tricks, and attacking Konoha was totally part of the plan for you, he mocked dryly. He could feel the fox twitching. I hate you. Naruto mentally chuckled, but decided to shrug it off as Kyuubi decided to take a nap. Next up was Kido class. It would be interesting seeing this. Making his way to the Kido training area, he could not help but remember how his Ka-san got with his Otu-san. Flashback, 2 days ago. Naruto was happy as he could be, though he kept it well hidden. He spent most of his time getting to know Unohana. There was one question that he had to ask. How did you meet Otu-san? Unohana smiled at the question. Well, when a mother and father love each other very much. Smash. Naruto's face vaulted with his feet twitching. He got up with his left eye twitching very violently. I know the birds and bees, he stated with clear annoyance in his tone. Unohana merely smiled while inside. She was laughing her ass off at her son's reaction to the question. It was 16 years ago that we met. Unohana started. It was during a warm summer day that we met. It started out as a little talk. We got more and more into our interests. But how did it specifically lead up to your marriage? He asked curiously. I mean, a clan head dating does get a lot of rumor mills running, he pointed out at the end. Unohana smiled at her son's observation skills. True, but we opted to understand each other from a perspective like this. She gazed over the compound. Our marriage only met one rejection from a single member on the council. Naruto narrowed his eyes in the slightest of ways. Who? He asked. His tone was not demanding, but was interested, but already expected an answer. Akira Kichiki. Naruto nodded slowly, but why marry him? He then continued. People marry for different reasons. Unohana chuckled. As I got to know him more, there was one side of him that I particularly liked. She saw Naruto's inquisitive look. He doesn't like showing that he cares for the ones he protects. Either way, he'll fight as hard as the Sateicho to protect even you. Naruto was slightly surprised at that. He smiled. He had to thank Kakashi-sensei for the advice. LOOK underneath. He gazed at the sky with a few clouds. Then flashback. Naruto got a response from Kyuubi, who yawned. Alright, you asked about his style. Naruto mentally nodded. Kyuubi hummed. Let's see a style using height Mitsurugi. Naruto mulled over on that. WE''LL go over the style later. Right now I'm up to Kido. Oh, and make sure you do a high level. Wang. Naruto smirked as he dropped a mental anvil on Kyuubi. An instructor raised an eyebrow. Boy. Kichiki. Naruto recompassed moments later. Yes, sensei. The man asked, anything you'd like to say? Naruto cocked a brow, as if he were questioning the teacher. No sir. The man nodded. Alright everyone, this here is Kido training, or rather the demon arts. Can anyone tell me the 3 disciplines? Naruto raised his hand calmly. The sensei pointed at Naruto. Kichiki-san, you explain. Naruto merely nodded. He knew he'd get admonished with praise, but decided on being humble would both help his image as a student and the Kichiki clan itself. He turned his tone into a calm and confident tone that was not prideful, but informative. Heido, the art of destruction, Bakudo, the restraining and healing Kido. The sensei nodded. Correct, he praised with a smile. Getting no reaction from Naruto, he continued. I know some of you have already practiced. Some of you please perform the Heido no Sansen. Shakuho. Naruto and a few nobodies went first. Naruto remembered that he said that he wouldn't hold back, and so everybody watched as he simply snapped his fingers and 5 of the Heido no Sansen. Shakuho appeared. This definitely shocked everybody. How? As you said, you know some of us have practiced more than others apparently. Naruto said simply with no emotion on his face, though inwardly he was amused by the reactions. The teacher praised Naruto, and to his surprise, he wasn't prideful, nor was he boastful. He merely gave a curt nod before sitting down with the class and ignoring the amazed whispers with a book in his hand. 3 figures were watching from a balcony atop the school. It peered down onto the training area. Nah, so that's him? A laid-back man asked. Certainly is your and Byakuya-kun's kid. The white-haired man next to him nodded in agreement. That was very impressive. I have only heard of very few in the Kido Corps being able to do Kido without incantations, though I have never heard of somebody being able to simply snap their fingers and have several Kido appear, especially an academy student. Anohana nodded softly. Her son was already talented in Kido. The man with the straw hat had brown hair that was tied into a ponytail with pinwheel hairpins. He had gray eyes and a long-sleeved white haori that had a rhombus on the back with the kanji for 8 on the back, with a flowery haori on his shoulders and 2 swords at his waist held by a tilobi. The first was A. And the other was a wakizashi. He wore a black kimono and sandals. Next was a man with white long hair that went to his mid-back with a white haori that was long-sleeved and had the rhombus and kanji for 13 on the back. He had black eyebrows as well. Anohana Taichu, what is it you wanted to talk about? Juishiro Yukitake inquired politely. It has to do more with just your son's arrival here. Shunsui is an intellectual. In my opinion, he observed he was reading strategy books while the Kido class went on. Has he already read up on the divisions? Anohana merely nodded yes, but I do believe we're getting off topic, she pointed out. Shunsui chuckled nervously. He may have been an apprentice to Yamajai, but he wasn't stupid enough to challenge Anohana. Ah, sorry, he apologized. Anohana nodded in acceptance. Now, I wanted to talk about how she was going to enjoy the laugh inwardly. But Naruto. Naruto watched as each student went. Most did not have the destructive power compared to Naruto, but they did have superb accuracy and control. He himself decided to adapt the Shinobi Chakra control exercise to his control. It would be interesting, he thought to himself with a mental smirk. What? A unison cry came from atop the Shinu Academy. Most students looked up, but Naruto merely sighed at this point. What could make his life, or rather death, more complicated? He looked at the sky with a barely noticeable look of annoyance. Kami, you must hate me. All he got was the twittering of birds in response. Anohana merely smiled, but it was borderlining on a laugh. These days certainly were interesting to her. You want us to be his kaifus, godfather? Shunsui gaped at finishing his own sentence. Yuashiro himself was shocked to hear this, but to come from Anohana of all people. Why us then? Anohana smiled at the question. I had discussed with Byakuya-kun at first. He was somewhat reluctant, but after some deliberation, we found you two to be the best choice for quite a position. Shunsui recompassed with a cocked eyebrow. Any more of a reason? He asked. Anohana sighed. Once he needs a proper role model, she reasoned. Let's just say that it was a hard time for him in his early life, she ended, not wanting to expose her son's past without his permission. And I balance over the fact Shunsui Taicho is a pervert, for lack of a better word. Yuashiro questioned with a sly smirk that was small. Shunsui hung his head. You didn't have to be that blunt, Jushiro-san, he whined at the end, making the two chuckle. Anohana smiled. Think of it that way if you want, she chided lightly. We'll work out the paperwork at the Kichiki compound later, say in the evening. Yuashiro looked at Shunsui. The two exchanged a silent message as they nodded in unison. Given what you're telling us little about, I'm all for it. Shunsui agreed with the current proposition. Yuashiro added, and I think I'd like to get to know your son better, in my opinion. Anohana nodded softly. Oh, her son was going to get more of a wake-up call. Then what happened with telling Naruto how she met Byakuya? Naruto shivered with a chill going up his spine. I have a bad feeling about this. Is Kyuubi merely sighed in Naruto's mindscape. ONCE again, he overlooks things way too much. Naruto hated being right sometimes. The class itself was over a while later. It was nearing lunch. As Naruto had gotten some food at the cafeteria, he was approached by a few classmates, but could easily see through the fact that they merely wanted to be friends with him for the status. Naruto wasn't going to be a snob, but told them to go away politely, with a forced sweet tone for the incentive. He wasn't surprised given his clan heir status. It was an annoyance, but he could find friends. He had all the time in the world. Up next was class. Naruto could tell out of the corners of his eyes that there were Taichos watching, mostly away from the crowds. So that's him, huh? Questioned Shinji, the Gabantai Taicho. Yoruichi nodded, confirming his question. Certainly is. I've already taken a look at his class reports. Very impressive, if I must say. What is going through that head of yours, Yoruichi Taicho? Shinji asked. If he keeps this up, and I have prodded from Byakuya, he would be an extraordinary member of my division. she stated as she kept her eyes firmly on Naruto. Already claiming him for yourself, eh? Shunshui said as he and Yuashiro decided to drop on the class. Shinji-kun, good to see you. He tipped his straw hat light to show acknowledgement. Shinji smiled at Shunsui. Taicho, it's quite a surprise to find you here, he said honestly. Shunshui nodded. He turned his attention to the class. He looks a lot like Byakuya-san, he mused idly. Ishiro chuckled in amusement. I think most of us got that earlier. He smiled lightly. What were his earlier classes like? Yoruichi smiled a bit. He's quite adept, good at, took down the second-ranked student in a few seconds. Shunshui whistled in appreciation. Nice, most new students can't do that. He rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Yuashiro smiled. Naruto himself was more like his mother in personality. He wasn't cold, but mostly regarded others with a cool expression, not icy and stoic like Byakuya. What of his class? I'm afraid I arrived later than Shunsui-san here. Yoruichi's smile widened. It was one that impressed quick and precisely. The sensei himself was impressed. Mostly the Hachimantai, 8th Division's style of fighting. Shunshui cocked a brow at that, but slipped his hands in the sleeves of his haori and decided to observe the class. Yoruichi analyzed Naruto with curiosity in her eyes. But what she found surprised her inwardly. The way he walked was as graceful as a tiger, not arrogant nor prideful of his lineage, but rather confidence worked out over years of training. Naruto himself watched from the front of the crowd. The instructor explained the uses of Hakuta and the philosophies behind the divisions as well. Naruto scoffed inwardly. The academy was too basic for his liking, but it did have its positives in teaching a person proper reaction timing. Earlier, Kyuubi had taken the liberty of training Naruto in his mind during the lunch period, given the fact the fox could slow down time in it to 20 minutes equals 1 week, and lunch period is an hour long, so that is 3 weeks non-stop, since he doesn't need to sleep in his mindscape, and any damage done is null and void when he is in there. The sensei watched over each participant as they performed average or slightly above average. Next up was Naruto at least 20 minutes later. Naruto Kichiki Anohana. There were amazed whispers that came from the class as Naruto came forward. For his part, he ignored the whispers and focused intently on the lesson before him. Hum at me with what you know and we'll work out on the openings later. Naruto nodded in understanding. The sensei got into a basic academy stance. Naruto responded by getting into his own stance. The sensei moved first, directing a simple punch aimed for Naruto's head. It was slightly fast as a bit of was added for speed. Naruto dodged the attack and responded by slipping his own attack through the man's defense. He punched right for the diaphragm. It was caught by the sensei's hand. Naruto slipped his left foot behind the man's ankle and with a palm strike to his chest with his left hand. The man was on his back in moments as Naruto pulled his left foot back to normal. Silence reigned for a minute. Naruto sighed mentally. He really hated attention as he took out a book and ignored his environment. Shunshui slapped quick lightly and effectively, he muttered. He walked out of the hall and headed for his first history class. Across the Seratai in a dark room, a single man sat with a hateful look in his eye. Akira-sama said. Akira nodded. What news? Byakuya-sama's son is progressing better than expected in the academy. The cloaked figure responded quietly. Akira frowned as the figure left best not to make any moves now. As the Godaju Santai kept a watchful eye on the academy, he smiled an evil smile best I can wait, he cackled maniacally into the night. Things were just beginning to start anew for one Naruto Kichiki Retsu. Thanks for watching my video and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.